kind of just clicked at a certain point a couple of years into having my business that, I'm right there at the crossroads of electrical fires where these firefighters are having to run in and stop electrical fires on a regular basis. If your house was built before 1975, you're 10 times more likely to have an electrical fire.
All right, welcome back to the Built for Profit podcast. Super excited today to have my buddy Scott on the call today because quick little intro to Scott. We've chatted a few times. We actually met through the Dan Martell Elite program. But one of the things I just respect so much about Scott, just in the short time that we got to know each other, is that he is building something just with massive vision behind it. Obviously, he's like developed a craft, which we're going to get into a little bit in the electrical space, kind of has this vision of what he wants to do there. But he's gone so far above that to the standpoint of just having everybody individually that comes to work for his company has their own vision of what that could look like for them. And so he's building a vision big enough that kind of incorporates everybody that's working for his team and their vision for their life. So super, super fired up to dive into this call with Scott. So Scott, welcome to the podcast. I would love for you, honestly, just to kick us off here by just letting the listeners know who Scott is. How did you get to where you're at today? And a quick little story behind that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here as well. And yeah, about me, I guess if we go way back into the story, I was probably about 10 years old. I stuck a pocket knife in an outlet and it fried me and melted the pocket knife.
Oh my God.
And that was my first experience with electricity. And just being a kid, kind of messing around with the electrical, as kids do. But I obviously survived and moved on. But yeah, I guess after high school, I was just really kind of trying to find something that I felt drawn to. A lot of my classes and, things I did in school didn't really speak to me. I got decent grades and, the whole social aspect and everything. But once, high school ended, I was like, okay, it's time to get serious and kind of take a direction here. So I visited a couple of campuses and found Michigan State University. They had an electrical tech program. And I always liked working with my hands. And I liked the aspect of the electrical trade just being something that was like unique.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to be a builder, so to speak. But the electrical trade just kind of piqued an interest. So fast forward after that program, I really liked it, enjoyed it. All the labs and lectures and everything just kind of drew me in, and I learned all the basics and all the fundamentals on electrical theory and all that. Got out, did my apprenticeship. Takes 8,000 hours to get that done as an apprentice. So I did part of that in Michigan, where I grew up, and then in 2011. I moved to Sacramento, California, and that's where I'm at now. Finished my apprenticeship, worked with a handful of different companies, getting experience as a journeyman and a foreman, and just decided to go out and start my own business in 2015.
Yeah, that is amazing. So yeah, kind of tell me how you obviously Michigan State, and then what was the leap to like make the move across the country basically to Sacramento? What drew you to Sacramento?
Yeah, so growing up in Michigan, you always have that kind of the West Coast being this like different culture, and the beaches and the mountains and California, so that was something that I kind of grew up with, kind of looking at that, always feeling like, what would that be like to live in California and walk through the redwoods and all that. And my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, she got accepted to a graduate program that had campuses in Chicago, Southern California, Northern California. And
Okay.
we both were like, the relationship's going well and no reason to separate or do a long-term relationship. And so we
Sure.
decided to do her graduate program in Northern California in Sacramento. And so that's what we did. It was a plan for 2 years to do school and check it out. And that was 2011. So here we are now, 14 years later.
Wow. Well, Scott, honestly, it kind of speaks a little bit to your character of just like living out a vision because the fact that to move across the country, you probably didn't know that many people in Sacramento when you moved there. And so the fact that you are building a business, yeah, you knew zero. So you're literally building a business coming off the skill set that you developed through the apprenticeship program and starting. You said that business started in 2015, is that right?
Yeah, we were in Sacramento for 4 years before I started my business. So finishing my
Wow.
apprenticeship and then working as a journeyman for that time.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So, man, I just love that taking a leap of faith, going over there, starting your own thing. I think that's a beautiful thing. So, kind of, if you can just give a background to, or really kind of who you serve. Obviously, if you follow Scott on social media, you'll find immediately that he's passionate about historic homes, and so kind of give the listeners, I guess, an idea of like who's your ideal client. What are you trying to do to inside the community that you're serving? That kind of the quick little vision of your business.
Yeah, definitely. So working as an electrician, and starting my own company, obviously the big question when you start your company is, like what are you gonna do? Like what's your specialty gonna be? What are you drawn to? And I was always drawn to the hospitality aspect of residential electrical and just coming into homes and talking with families and talking to their kids and getting to know them and having it more like personable and me taking care of them. And so I did that for a number of years, just kind of, all residential electrical. I did a lot of lighting, EV chargers, hot tubs, that kind of thing. And then at a certain point, my brother is a firefighter in Palo Alto, and our grandfather was a firefighter in Texas for a lot of years, most of his life. And so it kind of just clicked at a certain point, a couple of years into having my business, that I'm right there at the crossroads of electrical fires, where these firefighters are having to run in and stop electrical fires on a regular basis. There's like 200 in Sacramento every year. And so I really was, kind of, that hospitality and taking care of families just really kind of evolved into stopping electrical fires and that being a big passion and what I wanted to do for Sacramento. There's a big population here of historic homes, big population boom in the 1920s and in the 1950s and on, and it's still growing a lot today.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's really the core of our business that we've developed over the 5 years or so. As I'm starting to build a team, is what can we do to let homeowners know in these historic homes, if your house was built before 1975, you're 10 times more likely to have an electrical fire. So, what do you need to do? There's plenty of historic homes that are safe. They have new wiring. They get maintenance on a regular basis. They check their smoke detectors. It doesn't have to happen, and these fires don't have to happen. So, that's kind
Yeah.
of our mission is, let's prevent every preventable electrical fire. Let's eliminate every electrical fire, that we can, and keep families safe and educate them about, what they can do to make it right.
Yeah, Scott, I love that so much. I think last time we talked, you mentioned that 200 plus homes a year that have electrical fires, which is just wild to me. And I love your vision of saying like, no, we're on mission to take it from 200 to zero. Just
Yeah.
by preventive maintenance and all the things that you're doing, which I just think is such a beautiful thing. So, okay, so as you're building out this company, you're coming up. I guess yeah, you're celebrating 10 years this year. That's wild to think about, Scott. That's pretty
Yep.
awesome. A
Yeah. 10
decade
years.
underneath your belt. And so can you speak a little bit to, and you and I've talked about this before, but I just want the listeners to know because it just fires me up so much of like what you're building and what you're building from a place of having vision for people that are coming to work for your company, how they're learning and how they can grow inside of your company, even vision into other cities potentially. Can you just kind of like, where is Scott and what does his business look like 5 to 10 years down the road, and how do people that are coming to work for you benefit from that?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with our customers. How, I just feel really drawn to like taking care of people and being there and being a resource for people and guiding people through a process. And that kind of has just really translated in a similar way to the employees that we're bringing on. So what we're developing here at Modern Edison is a really unique kind of a structure for business, where instead of having everything really segmented in a construction company where you have the installers and you have the sales guys and you have the project managers, um, I worked as an independent contractor, owner operator, with, just me pulling the permits and doing the installs and going into families and completing the projects from start to finish for like 7 years before I started actually building a team and bringing people on and, trying to get a big movement behind fire safety. So I've got a lot of experience of like what's possible that one guy can accomplish. And so that's what the future vision for the company is, from an internal standpoint, is we're reaching out to journeymen and giving them the opportunity, if they've got, 4, 5, 10 years in the trade, and they have, the electrical skills down, they are good with people, and they don't mind being on social media, and we can train them and give them kind of a holistic role in the company. They basically have, the 3 main hats. Is they're doing the sales, they're meeting with customers, they're talking about what the customers need, and then
Yep.
just giving the recommendations, and then they're also doing all the project planning, and then installing and completing the work. We're also letting them in on behind the scenes on, like, financials and where the money comes in and where it goes and how to track expenses. So it's kinda like a contractor school in a way, where when I was an apprentice, you go through the school and you learn the basics, and then you practice for 8,000 hours, and then you move on to being a journeyman. This is kind of like, we take journeymen, we give them the education, and we give them the practice through the company, and then they basically graduate out from journeyman to contractor, and they go out on their own as an independent contractor. So it kind of goes counterintuitive. If you were to ask any other business owner, like, why would you do
Yeah.
that with your with your guys? Funnel them out of your business.
Yeah.
It's more kind of just like a passion for me. Like, I wanna go back in time and help me back in the day, like anybody else in that position who really wants to go out on their own and have time freedom and be with their family and start the day when they want and take off holidays, and also be able to make a good living. So
Yeah.
I get fired up thinking about that, bringing guys in. And what's interesting, as I'm bringing guys in and moving guys out, it's creating kind of like a big, magnetic effect to all the talented guys in Sacramento, and the word's
Wow.
kinda getting out about, this is a unique opportunity. And so I've actually gotten, like, really great candidates to come in and work with us. So as long as they wanna stay with the business, they can stay and train and do what they need to and move on. So, really unique kind of a business model. But eventually, where we're going in the next 5 years, I wanna get to, uh uh, 10 journeymen in Sacramento, 10 journeymen in the Bay Area, because there's a huge need for fire safety and historic homes
Yeah, for
there as
sure.
well.
Yeah.
And build up to, like, a large production, and have like a culture of, we're doing sales training, we're doing like yearly retreats where we all get together as a company, and we have speakers come in and we all train together. And it's
Wow.
much more of like a lively community of, high performing journeymen who are, like, hungry to go out and, like, learn more and better themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I feel passionate about, because it's something new. It's not really something that exists out there. It's not the traditional construction model.
Yeah, well, Scott, I mean, I think there's so many things I would love to dive in that whole model, but I think what you're doing is brilliant because to me, what I love so much about that is you experience something some way as an apprentice or through your journey before you own your own business. And you said like, what would have prepared me much better and how can I build a business that does that? I just love that so much because I'm trying to do something similar in Flywheel to say like, how do I treat people differently than I've ever been treated before? How do I do things differently as a business that like basically shows the people that are coming to work as a team together that I genuinely care about them and want what's best for them as a person. Who cares about the work? I want what's best for them as a person. And I love so much that you're building your business that way because I think when people, at least what I've realized is the beautiful byproduct of treating people like that is that I think they'll show up for you to the best of their ability to work at their highest potential for you because they genuinely think and know that you want what's best for them, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that is just a beautiful cycle of how business can work is when you say like, "Hey, look, we're people working and serving people, and I get to hopefully get you to where you're whatever you're dreaming about, whether that's running your own business one day or whatever, and you literally are helping them, like, usher them into that season." I think it's a beautiful thing, but here's what I love what you're doing, is that you bringing in speakers and doing these things to engage in almost the culture aspect of Modern Edison. It just allows people to, like, feel what you're building as a team, and it lets them I don't know why they wouldn't stay on forever. You know, they have the option to go do their own thing one day. But when you have the team dynamic that you're building, I think that just speaks so much powerful to be like, yeah, there's potential because these people are all stars to go build whatever they want to and be the man if they wanted to, you know? But they have the option to be like, man, I'm a part of a team that's much bigger than me and we're doing awesome things out there in multiple communities. And so it just allows people that are all-stars to stay around for a super long time because you're building a pretty awesome culture there. So Scott, I love it so much. So kind of speak a little bit to what you feel like you have momentum in right now as you're building and kind of this year, maybe even peeking into 2026 a little bit. What do you feel like you have momentum in? And then also kind of on the flip side, what do you feel like is kind of the bottleneck of kind of where you stand as a business owner?
Yeah, so that definitely is a great segue because the thing that's really working and kind of taking off organically is that the vision and that future that we're building. And I've always kind of been more of a visionary type person, and head in the clouds, if you will,
Yeah.
blessing or a curse depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just dreaming up this clear vision of like what could be and where we're going toward, and working on the pieces and the team that it takes to get there. It's only a matter of time. So when you have, like myself at, the helm, kind of taking us in that direction, the thing that's really working is the talent really being interested in being a part of it.
That's
And
cool.
also the community also wanting to be a part of it, and also wanting to kind of get on board and say, hey, yeah, I don't want to, sleep in a house where I'm worried it's going to start on fire. I got
Yeah.
grandkids and kids that I want to feel safe. And, I'm passing this house down. It's 100-year-old Victorian. It's beautiful. We take care of it. So there's definitely a need for it. And there's kind of like a big wake up wave, if you will, that I think will really spread like wildfire when, the word really gets out, and we can kind of make a big impact. Because right now we're still working a lot on visibility and getting the word out. So that would kind of go to the other aspect of that, is where the bottleneck is we're working hard to create brand awareness, and to create an educational process where we can let people know what the options are. Just like it's pretty common knowledge for people to 3 to 5,000 miles in your vehicle, you get an oil change. And, at a certain point, you get a tire rotation, and you replace your tires when your tread is so low. And so
Yeah.
that education around taking care of a vehicle allows that to be a safe and reliable vehicle over the life of the vehicle. So that's really what the educational process is for us, is coming up with that same type of analogy. What does a house need at 50 years old? What does it need at 100 years old?
Yeah.
What type of wiring do you have, and when does it expire, if you will? It gets
Yeah.
to a certain point where it's unreliable, or considered unreliable. So that's really the big thing that we're working on now, is increasing awareness and increasing just that educational reach that we have, so that we can talk to more and more people.
Scott, I love that analogy so much because it just, when you compare it to a vehicle, like you were saying, it just clicks immediately because that makes so much sense to me from a house at 50 and 100 and whatever those metrics or benchmarks are to kind of build that out. I'm curious for you, what have you seen as probably, and this will speak to anybody that's creating any type of like trades service in wherever they live in whatever community. What have you seen as probably the biggest educational thing, whether it's like speaking at Chamber of Commerce events, or is it social media, or is it, putting, flyers on people's doors? Like what's been working for you from just getting the word out?
Okay, so yeah, as far as what is working for us, I've seen a lot of people in the community reaching out and interacting with our social media. Been doing this for 15 years, and it's all in my head. I've got lots of education, and so recently, as Austin, the Dan Martell coaching program, I've been doing the social media and posting on Instagram, and so that's really been a great tool for us to actually put all the education out there of what to look for, and how you can get in contact with us to get more information. We've got a free ebook that we give out
Oh,
to
cool.
anybody who wants to see what, in a concise way, what do you need to do with a historic home to make it safe. I mean, so if anybody wants to DM us Safe Home, we'll send them that free ebook, and that's been a really good way to have more reach and to get in contact with more people, other than just being face to face with all of our customers and anybody who reaches out to do work with us, we, bring up that conversation like, hey, have you talked with anybody about this? Has this been on your mind? What have you done in the past to, think through the old parts, the faulty wiring, or whatever it may be in the house? So that's probably the biggest two is in person and social media right now.
Yeah.
But we are looking to do more podcast recordings,
Cool.
get the fire department on a podcast and talk with them about what
Yeah.
homeowners need to know. And the Sacramento Historic Society, there's a long list of people that will get on a podcast and be able to do podcast recordings as well, and just spread more information that way.
Yeah, I love that, Scott. So, and just to repeat, I think that's brilliant. You said anybody can find you on Instagram and message you the word safe home,
Yep.
and that'll send over that PDF guide. I love that, man. I think that's so smart to be able to just provide that value to anybody that's curious or if they want to just kind of get the knowledge that you're promoting out there. I think that's brilliant. Well, cool, man. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, I'm curious for you now that obviously a decade into business, hiring the team, building out the vision, wanting to get in other communities one day. I'm curious for you as a business owner, just on the like what to track measurements for you. I'm curious, like, is there certain things that you go back to consistently, whether it's weekly or monthly or biweekly, to say, like, okay, if I can see that these numbers in our business are in a red or a green or doing well or not doing well, that's going to keep us on track for the growth that I want to see. And if you're doing that, I'm curious, like, what do those numbers look like? It could be anything from marketing to finance to operations. Just curious if you had any of those kind of KPIs or key performance indicators that you're looking at.
Yep. Yeah. So we do a weekly meeting with everybody in the company, and we review the projects that are coming ahead, and then we review the projects that are completed.
Cool.
And then we talk to each one of the installers about, their key performance indicators, whether it be like callbacks on jobs or,
Cool.
any of these types of errors that we want to review and put something in place or do some training around it. So from a retrospective standpoint, we're reviewing things completed and talking to customers about how things went to improve our processes as we're building the team so that we can be as systematized as possible and deliver a high quality product, because I've got really high standards for the guys. So
Yeah.
training is a big, um, it's a big hurdle right now to get everything in place to get everybody on the same page. But that's also a big passion of mine as far as having really high standards and just
Yeah.
showing up and taking care of people, taking care of things, having communication where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So all those things from like an operational standpoint, we review that weekly. And then when it comes to the health of the business, we're tracking leads, number of leads per week that come in from what platforms,
Yeah.
and then ROAS on where we're spending and seeing what's working and what's working better or worse,
Yeah.
evaluating that, and then we also do a weekly sales call with the guys on
That's
Wednesdays where what contracts our customers signing, how many leads came in to how many contracts we have in the business where we're helping the homeowner. So just seeing that activity of people coming in and being interested to closed numbers so that we can actually see from a business standpoint what all those financials look like.
yeah.
So yeah, tracking all that and getting more and more systematized as we go and as organized as we can be with that stuff.
Yeah, Scott, I love that so much. I think for anybody listening out there, I think there's so much power in a everybody on the team weekly team meeting. And I love the transparency of how you operate as a business owner to be like, hey guys, we're all in this together. This is the part you play as a team. And let's track the things that are going to be important for the business. And the fact that you're willing to, share financials or like spend time training, just have everybody on a call together. I think I've seen fruit for sure in our business as well. I know you have as well, just having all hands on deck meetings on a weekly basis. So it's just part of the cadence that you're operating in. I love
Yes.
that so much. And I'm
Yep.
curious, for you with obviously boots on the ground people at homes, how are you trying to live, or I guess what have you built so far that you're living by those standards that you expect? Do you have like a on property checklist or like what have you kind of built out for your guys out there so they know that they're living up to your standards every time they're out there? Because you can't be everywhere at once, right? So like how's that working for you?
Yeah. Yeah, so that, without systematizing all that, that's a really difficult thing to do, without checklists and that type of stuff. We have a program. It's a construction software that is pretty heavily sectioned off as far as all the different parts of the business. And so when they arrive on site, they have their time tracking, obviously, so we can keep track of what project they're on, what drive time is where, and then their time card will break all that up so that
Oh,
we can
cool. Yeah.
accurately figure out job costing at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And then on top of that, we have each project will have all the customers' information. It'll have a task list of what needs to be completed, and then I've developed a system that's internal over time that we've kind of reiterated several times, where they have an arrival process. So part of that arrival is they arrive on site and they review the contract that the customer signed.
Oh,
They
cool.
have
Okay.
a pre-arrival process where they do material orders and they prep the project and they have everything all ready to go to hit the ground running. And that when once they arrive on that appointment date, their last uh, opportunity to make sure everything's in line is to review that contract and work through in their head, okay, all the materials, I'm good to go on the project. Let's go in and talk with the customer and make sure that, we're all on the same page before we get started. And that has kind of picked up a couple of little details here and there where the customer is like, hey, can I add this thing here? Or can I have this done this different way? Or can we do this? And so just giving the technician that kind of arrival process where before they get the work started, they bring the homeowner and they do like a quick meeting before they get started. That has been really helpful just to make sure that everything runs smoothly from start to finish, because there can be, breakdowns in communication, and it's a
Yeah.
long process and there's a lot of stuff to organize beforehand. So yeah, we've got checklists and things to keep everybody on the same page. And then everything from wearing your booties inside, having a canvas drop cloth taped to the floor at the entryway so you can walk in on your boots, put your booties on, and then go walk through the house.
So smart.
The painter's plastic, that real thin stuff that goes over cabinets or furniture, that type of stuff. There's ways that we do business, and those standards that you were asking about.
Yeah.
There's a way that we do business and there's a standard that we hold so that any journeyman that comes in, he can see what everybody else is doing and get on board and we can all work in the same way together.
Yeah. Scott, I love it so much because I think what Dan Martell talks about, everything is either a process or a people problem, and you always start with the process, right? And so,
Yep.
like, your point is that you've spent the time to build it because obviously you lived it for a while, and now you're building it with the business to actually have those checklists. I love all the different phases that you just mentioned, and even to the detail of like strapping booties on, having the canvas cloth. I mean, that stuff really, I think, makes a massive impression for the people that you're serving, the homes that you're going into, the families that you're treating. So I love the detail of it. I love the fact that you have that built out in a systemized process to execute well every single time you're out serving properties. So I think that's beautiful, man. Okay, well, as we wrap up, is there anything we haven't talked about today that you would just love to mention, or anything that's on your mind that you're fired up about?
Yeah, I guess the thing that comes to mind is getting a little bit of educational information out there for anybody listening. If you do have a historic home, my my priority is to stop fires. So, what could it be in your home that would start a fire? So maybe talking about that real quick and giving a little bit of insight around that.
Yeah,
So at about the 40 to 50-year mark is when plugs and switches and light fixtures have a potential to have loose connections. And
okay,
so if you imagine the wiring going from your main panel, where like if you're in SMUD territory in Sacramento, that's where the power comes in from underground or overhead and enters the property. So you have that box on the wall with the meter. That is where, step one is where the power enters your property. So determining whether or not that equipment is safe and reliable is a big aspect to fire safety. And then, like we talked about, the plugs, the switches, and the light fixtures, all of those electrical appliances and devices, they have a wire cut to size between the panel and that plug. And then it jumps to the next thing and it jumps to the next thing. So you have this web of physically cut wires and wire nuts tied together. So as
yeah,
you can imagine, you've got hundreds of connections in your house in the electrical system.
yep,
So that's really going to be the fire safety awareness, like step number one is if your plugs and switches are 50, 60, 100 years old, you have a massive potential for something arcing and sparking. And it only takes about 10 minutes for that to create a little lightning storm and melt that plug and start the wall on fire.
Wow.
So if you wanna get into that conversation, you can obviously DM me, Safe Home. Just look up Modern Edison Electric at Modern Edison Electric on Instagram. I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody interested to go deeper into what you can do and what you can be aware of when it comes to keeping the house and family safe.
Yeah, Scott, thanks so much for mentioning that, man, because I mean, is true for anybody, obviously all across the country. Scott can only serve you obviously where he's at,
For now.
there, but I just think it is, that's such a smart way just to be honestly just aware. Creating the awareness, I think, is such a beautiful thing that you're doing, Scott. I love that so much. Here's one thing I'll mention. Definitely go follow Scott on social media. Obviously, he's got his personal page. He's got Modern Edison as well. But here's what I've learned about him just by following him on Instagram. He's one of the most disciplined people I know because there's standards that we are trying to live by by being consistent on Instagram. And Scott knocks that out of the park. I mean, he is Mr. Consistent on Instagram, just trying to serve people. So I just appreciate that so much from you, just seeing like you're disciplined to get after it every single day, try to build their awareness, teach people what's going on for something that most people don't have a clue about. And so just appreciate your consistency and discipline. Because what I do know over time is that consistency compounds. And you are Mr. Consistent on the social media world. So appreciate you doing that. So if you won't mind mentioning again, obviously, best place to find you is to go on your website or Instagram or both. Or if they want to reach out to Scott, where do they go?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to take a local text or call. 916-642-9426 is an easy way to get a hold of my cell. And then you can find our website at modernedisonelectric.com. And then you can follow my personal page, Scott Vogeli, last name Vogeli. And then the business page is Modern Edison Electric. So any of those places you can reach out. And like I say, our big thing is to educate the community. And so we spend a lot of time and resources and effort building that educational process because we think that's really going to have the biggest effect. And
Yeah.
that's, having a healthy business and being in business and not going out of business is is a priority. But the effect that we have on the community and the team that we're building and the dreams and goals of the employees that we have, that's really the thing that's the value that we're getting from this, having a purpose and having a big vision. We want to go nationwide in the next 5 to 10 years and really have an effect on fire safety, generationally. So that's the big reward that we're going through. So we're happy to educate anybody who reaches out.
So good, Scott. I'm fired up to watch you lead Sacramento to go from 200 down to 0 and then replicate that all over the country, man. I'm fired up. Love your vision. You're the man to lead the charge for that. So super grateful for what you're doing over there. And so yeah, thank you so much for chatting with me today. And
Of
that's a
course.
wrap up on the podcast. Thanks, Scott.